Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am Tom Downey. What a game that was for Cincinnati, taking down the Minnesota Vikings in overtime. A bonkers game, but also some very troubling injury news coming out of that matchup for Cincinnati and after the win over Minnesota. We'll break it down. Some big performances by Jake Browning. He keeps doing it. And, of course, the injury news that I think is what you're really here for. But first, give me your one-word reaction to the Bengals win over the Vikings. Sound off in the comment section right now. Let's go to the injury news that we know, and it's not exactly a good thing at this stage. DJ Reader suffered a torn quad against the Vikings. Now, that's going to end his season, and it's going to cast a lot of uncertainty and doubt into his future. Not necessarily with the Bengals per se, but even just in the NFL in general. The torn quad injury is not a fun one to try to recover from. That's going to be challenging for a nose guard. Also, Reader was 4 games away from entering free agency again and getting one last big contract in the NFL because he was still playing at a pretty damn good level. This is a huge loss, not just for Reader's, short-term, long-term stuff, but also for Reader and the Bengals themselves. Reader's numbers do not pop off the screen necessarily. 34 tackles, 1 sack, 2 TFLs. You can probably go, oh, well, that's fine. They don't need him. They got other players out there. Here's the thing. DJ Reader, by far, is this team's best run-stopping defensive tackle, and I would argue best run-stopper, period. He does all of the dirty work and does it at a very, very high level. This is a significant loss for Cincinnati. It's not, I don't believe, an accident that, Reader went out at a decently early portion of that game. Ty Chandler averaged 5.7 yards per carry on the ground. 23 carries, 132 yards. He played really well. Bengals as a team, again, allowed 143. That includes Nick Mullins scrambling, Kenan Nwangwu had 1 carry for 1 yard. You were already kind of teetering with a not-so-great run defense. Now you lose your best one. It's a major loss for the Bengals and one that will cause issues down the stretch against Pittsburgh, against Kansas City, against Cleveland. Now, my suspicion here is that your next man up, obviously you have J2 Fele, Zachary Carter, Josh Puo. Your roster spot, I figure, will go to Domenique Davis. Given the time of the year you are at, and Ndamukong Suh doesn't have much left in the tank, not that he's even a good run stopper at this stage in his career anyway. Domenique Davis was impressive in the preseason this year, drew some buzz, some whispers of is he going to make the active roster or not. Made it to the practice squad, fits the mold of the run stopper at 326 pounds. I would not be surprised, whether it's formally done, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, that Davis gets the call up to the active roster for Cincinnati. Injuries continue to mount for the Bengals, and they're already at a level where you could have written off the year and gone, you lost too many guys, it happens, it stinks. They keep finding ways to win, though. What is your concern level over the Bengals' injuries? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, the low end. 10, the high end. It's the pinned comment. If that ad plays on YouTube, it's fine. Ignore it. Head down there and let me know. Next up on the Bengals injury news, Jamar Chase. This is the one that's a bit more concerning, perhaps. He left the game with a shoulder injury. Now, Chase had tried to come back in that football game, wasn't able to do so. Eventually left as the Bengals won, despite not having Chase out there, who, by the way, was still the team's leading receiver with 4 catches for 64 yards. His status for Week 16 against the Pittsburgh Steelers at this stage is still very much an unknown. Hopeful is maybe the term I would use, but we'll see. Here's what Mike Garafolo mentioned on NFL Network, which is the only real info I've seen, at least, as of this stage. I'm sure we'll get more today/tomorrow. Quote, I'm told it's a separated shoulder. Separated shoulder, AC joint sprain, you'll hear different terms for it. He'll get the full battery of tests. They'll know more tomorrow. That would have been said on Saturday, so that was said Sunday, I believe. The hope is that he won't miss any time. We'll see on that one. Bengals have a full 7-game recovery time frame because they play on Saturday again, in what should be a great one against the Pittsburgh Steelers with massive playoff implications. I am anxious, though, about Jamar Chase being able to play. He's been a bit more banged up, actually, than I think what most people would tend to realize. I mean, he had the ankle. He's been a bit nicked up in the past. The back, we got landed on it very painfully. Missed some time there. So we'll see. But this is indeed a concern for Cincinnati. The nice part, as we'll get into, we'll talk about T. Higgins and how well he played down the stretch with an an all-time touchdown catch, by the way, against Minnesota. Tyler Boyd stepped up. Andre Yoshivas made some plays. Charlie Jones also got rocked in that game on a special teams play, so we'll keep an eye on that front there. Bengals have some practice squad guys. They can make call-ups, but certainly worth monitoring. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. They have launched the 12 Days of Picksmas, a new promo each day leading up to Christmas. For example, you have a half-point Kevin Durant on Christmas Day, which is a fun little one, or on Monday, fun little bonus one to easily get because half point, so a point. Here's why I love Prize Picks. It's you against the numbers. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch your winnings roll in. They've launched Demons and Goblins, which basically Demons are harder to win. The player stat projections are higher. The payout is also larger. Goblins is the opposite. It's easier to win, but come with lower payouts. My picks for this Sunday slate of games. Lamar Jackson, more than passing yards. It's less than what Jake Browning threw for against Jacksonville. And I've got more than Jake Ferguson receiving yards and Tony Pollard run yards. I think those two players will be counted on in a big way for Dallas against Buffalo. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comments and the description. Again, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. More injury news here. This one, DJ Ivey, the rookie corner out of Florida. He was carted off the field after an apparent non-contact knee injury on special teams, which is where Ivey had mostly played this year, although because of the injury to Cam Taylor-Britt, Ivey had been playing more this year, a little bit more of late on defense. Not a lot, but got some snaps out there. Given Ivey's reaction, which seemed to be rather emotional, and as he was carted off the field, I would be kind of concerned that that's a season-ending injury for DJ Ivey, unfortunately, which continues to thin out this Bengals cornerback room. Chidobe Awuzie has been getting fully back from his own injury problems this time last year. DJ Turner has stepped up as a first-year player. Mike Hilton remains a top-tier corner. Jalen Davis mostly plays on the out or on the inside. Is kind of more of a nickel guy in the same way that Hilton is. So if you don't have Ivey, you don't have CTB, you got to get somebody up to the active roster and or practice squad promotions there. So the names to monitor here, Sidney Jones and Allen George. George is kind of in a similar boat last year. Got the call up later in the season and actually played a little bit. Both those guys can play corner. I also wouldn't necessarily rule out Michael Thomas getting called up here because Ivey was playing on special teams. The Bengals only have 3 safeties right now on the active roster because remember, earlier this year, Tyson Anderson was placed on season-ending IR. In theory, Cam Taylor-Britt could return soon. You're not quite there yet. Now, if you like that Bengals win, then make sure you are subscribed. We will be live for Bengals-Steelers on Saturday in what is a massive game for both teams. Bengals win that one. Ooh, they got a real chance to make the playoffs this season. Make sure you're subbed so you don't miss out. Doing to spend time on 2 players coming out of that Bengals game against Minnesota. A more positive point with all the injury stuff today. T. Higgins struggled a bit early against the Vikings. Dropped a pass, almost caught a great one for 40 yards, ended up being overturned. But then he delivered in a major way down the stretch. We'll get to plenty of Jake Browning praise here in a minute. But that one touchdown catch, the one you see right here on screen, the Higgins one where he just out jumps the defender and then reaches over and puts it across the pylon for a touchdown, is one of the coolest plays I've seen since the Jerome Simpson flip in Cincinnati. Funny enough, former Viking player there too. Higgins stepped up. Chase goes down. Higgins plays like the number 1 receiver. We all know that he can and is, etc. That was a T play. That's not a great ball by Browning. It's a little bit reckless, frankly, but it worked. And Browning and Higgins deserve plenty of credit for it. Who gets the game ball for the Bengals against the Vikings? I got the answer, I think, coming up next here, but sound off in the comments section. Jake Browning, right? Who the video audio is not leaked yet. It will be posted, I think. But after that game, Jake Browning finds one of the Bengals content camera and screams, "They never should have cut me," or something along those lines. Kind of sounds like, by the way, that what Browning said he said afterwards. might have undersold the actual reaction from it. So I can't wait to see what that looks like there. He keeps doing it. He keeps making plays, and the Bengals are squeezing out wins. And Browning played great in that game. I had the bad interception, I guess, whatever, but so did Nick Mullins. 29 of 42, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, the interception. His QBR was only 57.1, which kind of feels weird when you throw for 324 yards. Your ground average is under 4 yards a carry. Jake Browning is not game managing his way through to wins. He's making plays for Cincinnati. I have been incredibly impressed by him, and I apologize again for writing off this team, after the initial Steelers loss. And I said, they're cooked. They're done. No chance. The Vikings had allowed like 28 straight drives with no touchdowns, something like that, and then the Bengals dropped 21 in the fourth quarter alone. Very impressive performance. Hats off to Cincinnati. More videos to come this week. Make sure you are subscribed.